we are going to be speaking to longtime mentorship agent Michael Daniel. Let me tell you a little bit about Michael Daniel. Michael Daniel came aboard with me probably, it's been about 3 years or so, and he transitioned away to some extent from the Medicare industry, and actually prior to that was in a totally different industry, which is, I'll let him explain and give the detail on, because it's really fascinating how people stumble really into final expense. He's been with me for 3 years, an excellent agent, kind of guy that works hard, has the right behavior and characteristics of a winner. And without further ado, Michael, if you could press 5* to raise your hand, I will go ahead and let you hop on the board, and we'll get to going.
Yes, you got it?
Yeah, perfect, great. So, Michael, thank you so much for jumping on the line today to do our little interview series that we're doing.
Yes, and thanks for the nice introduction. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you go ahead and take it away from here and kind of just, if you could, give us the 30,000-foot overview of who you are, your background, how you got into final expense, and then we'll start off from there, kind of going over kind of how you do business. So take it away.
Yeah, well, as he told you, my name's Michael Daniel, and I'm in Tennessee. My background, for 18 years, I trained show horses. Totally different industry, but did well with that. Just it was hard for my family life. Got 3 small children and needed to make a change, so I got into Medicare Advantage sales. Did a lot of that and had a really good book of business going. But the way they changed the pay scale and the way that the marketing's done, and so it really hurt my business. So I guess I lucked up. David was the first one that I landed into. I got a recommendation from somebody who'd been watching him on YouTube, I'm sure as many of you guys had, and got with him. Started out and just sold to my book of Medicare people. Went back, visited with those guys, and got the ball rolling, and immediately got on a lead program. And I guess maybe one little nugget I'd say is, I came out of a totally different industry. I came off the horses back into insurance, and so it really doesn't matter your background or your experience. The main key that I see the agents that succeed is the map's already drawn, the things are already in place. Just don't leave any of the steps out. Just follow what Dave shows you, what we show you if I'm able to help at times. And that's the main thing. Don't reinvent the wheel and don't leave out a step. That's probably the main thing that I would say. It's just the doctored down truth of it is just do what you're being told, and it'll work out.
Yeah, that's one thing I think that everybody listening to this interview will really discover as we progress from one week to the next, speaking with different agents who've been successful and continue to be successful, is that it's really like what they do doesn't really differ all that much between each other. They could be in Nashville, they could be in Chicago, they could be in Augusta, Georgia, they could be anywhere selling final expense, and, what you find is they all do the same thing. And it leads to that lens of that premise that, this is a simple business. It really is. It's certainly not easy. But the process in which we all follow, the top producers follow at least, there really isn't much deviation or difference at all.
That's right. Yeah, just staying on course and don't let your highs be too high and your lows be too low. That's just the way it is. You're going to go and have some great days, and don't let that be too great, and don't let a bad day get you down, because it's not any one day or even any one week for that matter in this business. It's just a
Right.
numbers game and staying persistent, really.
So I want to go back to what you mentioned very early on in your introduction, Michael. You had come into final expense. I remember our conversation well. You had done a couple of years top producer for Medicare Advantage in Tennessee, and you're interested in transitioning into the final expense business. And what I'd like you to kind of go into detail about is tell us how your process in getting started was a little bit unique, and how actually it turned out to be a very successful run, and how you were able to generate business.
Yeah, so early on, I had waited, all the broken promises with, this is going to be fine. Anyway, I waited until my financial situation was compromised, and I could have come up with a lead program, but it would have been a little tough, and it was new for me. So what I had done is I went back to my existing book of business and just called those people with a review. Of course, followed the rules, made sure that I didn't, mess up with the Medicare rules, but went back and talked to those people and just had an excellent first 3 or 4 months. Wouldn't you say, Dave, 3 or 4 months of just killing it right off the bat?
Yeah, you wrote about, in 10 weeks, you wrote around 25 to 30,000 in production without spending a dime on leads. I remember that clearly.
Yeah, it was great, and a great way to get started. If anybody's on the line and has any type of book of business that relates, definitely take advantage of that. And then I knew the whole time I was doing that, even had the results not been as good, I was already setting myself up to be able to go right into a direct mail campaign, because ultimately that's the deal right there. And by the time I had done what he just described, I was ready to go. We got on the lead program. Started out with 20 leads a week and stayed there for a little bit. As soon as I jumped it to 30, I was so impressed that I jumped it to 40 within, I didn't mess around. I stayed at 30 for about 2 weeks. Isn't that about the way it went, Dave? Took a couple of weeks, and the results were compounding. So,
Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
That my role as your mentor, I suppose we could say, is, if I find someone like yourself who's doing very well and they're producing, they're doing well, I push them. I remember our conversation when we took you from 20 to 30 leads, and then from 30 to 40. You had the numbers were there. You were making the sales that were realistic, that were profitable, a nice return on investment, and you wanted more. And I told you can get more. All you need to do is just more. You just need to do more activity. That's kind of what's cool about this business is if you just once you dial into it and you're hitting your closing ratios, you're hitting, generally speaking, your premiums that you should be. If you want to do more, you don't have to come up with some newfangled marketing approach. You just need to go out and run more appointments. And that's what I pushed you to do, because I knew, without, gloating too much here, I knew that you were very good and that all you had to do was just a little bit more in order to get more.
Yes. And I'll tell you a weak spot about myself that I have to constantly work on. If anybody's listening, who all's listening? Just, we talk about door knocking in between appointments, and we all, or at least me and some of the agents I have, will all say, "Oh yeah, we're door knocking in between appointments," and they call one door knock. Yeah, I've been door knocking. No, you got to door knock between appointments. If you want to really excel, it's not the most favorable, but you can train your mind to, even though you may go to 4 doors and no one's there or whatever, just train your mind that behind one of these doors is 500, 800, there's plenty of money. So you ask yourself, hey, would you go knock on 10 doors and speak with 2 people to make $1,000? I mean, there's people all over the place that would do that. So you just have to change your outlook on it. And that's a weak spot for me that I've had to work on. And, it goes, my success goes up another 20% when I'm super focused on that. I don't know if Dave endorses the Road Warrior app, but it's awesome.
Yeah, you and Dennis do, and Dennis was talking about that last week on the call. He said, you got to do Road Warrior. Just stick it all in there, and it maps it out for you. You don't have to think. And really, in this business, to some extent, the less thinking you do, the better, because if you just follow the motions and follow the plan, things kind of work themselves out.
Yeah, it's easy. If you get a no-show, to pull over and call a friend or twiddle your thumbs or make a return call and you get off track, and it's easy to do. But if you'll just focus and put your time, when you're in the field, you're in there to see as many people no matter what. And I found that I can actually knock a day off the end of the week if I'll do it right the first 3 to 4 days. So that's just I was just sharing with you, as good as I've been able to do, that's definitely a weak spot for myself. And I don't know who said it, but if you can work on your weakest point, there's no telling what you'll come up with. So that's just something that came to mind on the call here. I wanted to share with you guys.
We appreciate that, Michael. Now, we've done several interviews in the past. You can, by the way, guys, if you'd like to hear more about what Michael has to offer and kind of what his background is and some of these interviews, if you go into YouTube and look under agent mentorship interviews, or if you go to my website and look under testimonials, you can hear conversations I've had with Michael in the past. What I want to speak about is your best week ever. And if I'm correct, if it hasn't changed, the last time you and I spoke at length was we did an interview after you wrote, I think it was $13,500 of business. And I always like to bring up the big, super successful weeks so that, it's always exciting to think, man, for writing that much in a week is crazy. I mean, in a month, that's good. But what I'd like you to do, Michael, if you can kind of go back and remember that particular week where you wrote $13,500 of business. What did you do? What kind of activity did you do? And if it was at all, kind of explain how that may have been or maybe not have been different from any other week you were selling.
Well, I'd say number one, the bottom line is I saw a lot of people. Yes, it had to have some stars line up to get to that level of sales, but overall, the bottom line was, hey, I saw a lot of people that week and had a ton of follow-up leads. I think I don't remember the situation if I had several follow-ups and I actually didn't take any new leads that particular week, which was really cool because I took a week where I didn't even receive new ones, and I worked extra hard because of that. And it turned out to be, it just shows the motivation you put into it. It's like, okay, I got to get serious this week. I've got follow-ups, I got door knocks, and I've got to call through some of these leads from the last couple of weeks. And just kind of intensified my focus at the beginning of the week. And when it started feeding on itself, I guess I would say that, of course, I got super motivated. I started hitting, 7,000 or 8,000 by late Wednesday, and just kept going. I ended up working on Saturday just to see what I could get done. So activity and seeing people is the main thing. But really the key that you turn right here that you say, hey, what is it? More activity, yes. But what was it that really set that week apart? And by the way, my number 2 highest week was the same setup. No lead, I didn't take any or whatever. I did some follow-ups.
Let's just stop giving you leads and somehow magically we'll quadruple your production. That may be the key.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, when you order a bunch, and if you order less than a bunch, you're still going to end up having a compounding effect of follow-up leads that it gets better the further you go. But the key here is at the beginning, when you know you don't have them, your focus changes and you say, I got to make something happen. Well, if you do that, getting leads or not getting leads that particular week, it's going to change, just basically changing your psychology and knowing what you've got to get done. And it actually just feeds off itself once you get the ball rolling, if that makes sense. Now, I'm not advocating stopping leads or anything. It's just something that I did a couple of different times.
Yeah, did you have some sort of urgency impact? That's what happened, where it's like you're in a situation, you have to make it work. And that does change your behavior. And that kind of goes to that whole point anyway, right? I mean, this game is, it's like golf. Somebody said it the other day. I don't know what I was watching, but it all occurs between the 4 inches between your ears, And
good of it does, yes. And the weeks that I get leads, obviously, we tend to think, oh, I've got plenty of nice fresh, and to clarify, I get leads every week, but there are times when I may have some follow-ups, and I do that. I'm not advocating a lot of that type of activity, but once in a while that happens. But the whole point is, no matter what you're doing, you get 20 leads, 30 leads, 40 leads, whatever you do, if you'll change your psychology at the beginning of the week and focus on intensity and getting that done and start feeding off your sales, you get a sale and you're just that much more motivated. Like he said, it all goes right down to between your ears. That's what it boils down to.
Perfect, Michael. So, guys, by the way, if you'd like to ask a question, whether it's final expense related or if you'd like to ask Michael a question, he still has some time on the phone here. Feel free to press 5-star. That will raise your hand. I'll see it, and then I will answer that question. You can hop right on. So last question here as we wrap up, Michael. First of all, thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy, and we all appreciate your, insight to how you got started and how you've been successful in this business. The last question I want to ask you essentially is, as we kind of talked before this interview, the goal of what I wanted to do in this recording is just basically think from the standpoint of somebody who's just getting started or, maybe you're thinking about getting into this business, but just more or less brand new. And most people who are just getting started want to know what it takes to be successful. They want to replicate and do the best that they can so they experience success as well. And that's my question to you. If we were talking, you can picture yourself talking to a brand new person who wants to succeed. They hear your story or are inspired, and they want to get the same level of success. What general steps would you tell them to do and follow in order to at least shoot for the same goals that you've been able to accomplish in the final expense business?
I think number one, if you're brand new and you're trying to learn any facet of it, maybe door knocking or sales or whatever, we're on a team here, guys, with David, and he's done more than several other agencies put together as far as training and getting online and seeing the videos. And so if you learn that way, get in there and learn all you can when you start going. If you learn hands-on, try to figure out how to ride along with someone nearby to do it that way. But initially, it's a learning curve. Don't let it frighten you. The first week or so, I did well, but I had to ask a lot of questions, and that's what Dave's here for, and I'll help as well if there's anybody that needs to call. But
hey, Michael, I'll just jump in here before you finish up. Michael still calls me pretty much daily, and I'm more than happy to take his phone call because that's why I'm here. I exist to serve you guys, especially when you're in the field and we don't know which case or carrier to put him with. And so Michael's never let up, and I'm glad for that because I've always thought if you always are doing your job to get with me when you need help on a case. It's going to have an exponential impact on your overall results. But anyway, I just wanted to add that because it's very important. Michael has always been on top of things to try to figure out, okay, what's best for my client so I can make the sale.
Yeah, this is a good time to bring up this point that we haven't so far. Initially, early on when I first started, I knew enough about just the basics that I thought I knew. And so I'd go in there and I'd be looking at their policy or just doing math and so forth, and just thinking, there's no way I could, there's nothing I can come up with here. This isn't going to be able to work today on this one. And I'd call Dave just to run it by him. And there was an unreal amount of learning that occurred right there. And he said, tell me the situation. I explained it to him, told him. And we'd find small something or others that would change. Maybe somebody had been mistreated with their prior policy, and, maybe I'm sure by now most of you guys know what clean cheating is. We run into that all the time, but that was amazing to me that, different things, smokers that are marked as a non-smoker, and, people who have a certain condition and somehow their carrier didn't catch it in underwriting, but guess what? That person, if they pass in that contestability, they're in bad shape. So take advantage of calling him whether you think it's a no or not the first week or two. Whether you think you've got something or not, you may have your hands on a sale and not even realize it. Happened to me multiple times that first month. And then once I started identifying those on my own, I lessened the amount I talked to David, but I still call him weekly. And I've sold this for a while, but there's always something that comes up. So take advantage of that, especially early, because there's situations that are going to come up where it looks just as plain as day that there's no way to improve this person's coverage, and you get him on the phone, you get the wizard on the phone, what I call it, and we can improve the people's situation and help ourselves at the same time. And if there's not that opportunity, he'll tell me, or he did, when I was learning, and we move on. But if you can legitimately help a person and replace something they've got, you'll be amazed if you'll just call him and check on it the first couple weeks and get a feel for what those situations are. And
absolutely.
That's about it.
Well, Michael, I want to thank you again so much for joining me on today's call. What you've provided and the insight is a tremendous value to new agents and experienced agents alike. And thanks again for your time to give to us and give us your insight.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And if anyone else, needs help and a backup, I'll be glad to help anybody. So enjoy everybody's day, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you.